So we did 2 verses. We completed invocation and we completed
verse 1 and verse 2.
Verse 1 and
Verse 2.
Verse 1.
Mantra 2 we did not do.
Mantra?
We did 2 verses, invocation and first verse. Right? Yeah. Mantra 2. Mantra 2. Purvan eveha karmani jijjivishe chatam samaha evam tvai na anyatethosti na karma lipyate narite. So we have completed the first 2 verses of Isopanisad and now we are on Mantra 2 now. Now before we begin, I took some interesting notes from Urmila Mataji on Isopanisad. And there's a nice trend that she has explored or analyzed in the Isopanisad section. So it's very interesting. What Mataji's assessment is that the way we live is dependent on 2 things. If you assess anyone, if you take anyone, okay, the lifestyle of someone is dependent on 2 things. What do you think they are?
Money.
They are wealth, okay.
Morals and knowledge.
Knowledge, okay, very good.
Values.
What else? Values, okay. Now you are coming close. Okay.
Desire.
Character.
Desire.
Desires, okay.
Motivation.
Motivation, okay. You are coming very close now.
Identity.
Goal is based on what?
Identity.
Happiness.
Identity.
Consciousness.
Conscious.
Responsibility.
Okay. Okay. She says, and I like the way she's put it. She says, people do something because of their beliefs. Right?
That comes from religion.
Beliefs. First is beliefs.
Family values.
Family values, but it's beliefs. Your beliefs may dictate you not to have some value in life. If your belief is that life is meant for enjoyment, okay, it doesn't matter even if you cut others, because there is no accountability anyway, then you will not have that value of not cutting others. Does it make sense? So it's beliefs. What do you believe at the end of the day? Okay. Do you firmly believe that the goal of life is self-realization? Do we firmly believe that the goal of life is developing love of God? Do we believe that that is the goal of life? Okay. All of us are here in this room. We may all be imperfect devotees. That's a different issue. Okay. We may have hundreds of anarthas. We may goof up many things. We may not attentively chant. We may do so much gadbad in our life. But one thing is there very clearly, that none of us disbelieve the essential fundamentals, which is what? That the goal of life is to attain
Krishna Prema.
love of Krishna. So we may make mistakes, but we know that we are making mistakes. We may be imperfect, but we know that what is perfectness. We know that. So it's our beliefs. Now based on these beliefs, we will act. So it's a very nice way of putting it. Based on these beliefs, our actions will be in accordance with our beliefs. Right? So, if you take, for example, someone who is very, the top class philanthropists of the world, why are they doing whatever they are doing? Because they believe that the goal of life is Manav Seva, Madhav Seva, or something like that. The goal of Madhav, okay, they may not even have Madhav. Okay. The goal of life is Manav Seva, full stop, big period after that. The goal of life is to help other human beings. That is the goal of life. They are firmly entrenched in that view. Right? So they'll open old age home, charitable hospitals, donate, for these kind of purposes. Okay? So that's their belief. And all their actions eventually in life will be in accordance with those beliefs. Okay? So this belief plus action, according to the belief, will lead to lifestyle. That is called as lifestyle. So belief plus acting on those beliefs is your lifestyle. Does that make sense? So now you will understand why some people's lifestyles are so extravagant. Why? Because they believe the goal of life is what? To increase your prestige. Right? You must be the best. If I am dressed, I must be the best dressed. So let me go to Myers and buy the best dress over there. Okay, because that's the goal. I must be the best. I am someone. So I want to lift my standards, like that. So that's their belief. So their actions are also accordingly. They'll work very hard to be able to afford that Myers dress, or Myers is the most expensive I can go up to. Maybe there are better brands. I don't know. What is a better brand? Huh? What is that? You do not go to Myers. ISKCON. Huh? Okay, so belief plus action. This is what I want you to note down. Belief plus action is lifestyle. Okay. Now, this belief can be molded, changed. How beliefs can be changed? Through the medium of knowledge.
Oh, knowledge.
Beliefs can be changed by
Knowledge.
Our beliefs was it not changed by knowledge? Otherwise, what were our beliefs before? Before we became devotees, what was our belief? Huh? Believe in you. That was the first thing.
Believing.
Nowadays, realize that believe in you means believe in your mind. Now, what is our mantra? Don't trust your mind. It's exactly opposite. When you get knowledge, then it's exactly opposite of what you used to believe, right? Amir Khan was saying, "Man ki suno tum," he says in one song. You know that movie, no? Mera mana. Man ki suno tum. Like that. So always we have been, our guru is Bollywood. So listen to your mind. Okay. There was one song also in English. Listen to your You have heard that song? No, you have not heard it. Okay.
I have heard.
Yeah, okay. So it's always like that. So the propaganda in the external world is what? Always listen to your mind, listen to your heart. Whereas here what it is? Listen to spiritual master.
Spiritual master.
It's a big mindset, and that comes because of knowledge. Okay. Now, so our beliefs now is changed to knowledge, right? And therefore our action becomes practices, spiritual practices. So instead of belief and action leading to a lifestyle, now it is knowledge plus practices which leads to spiritual advancement or spiritual lifestyle. Okay. So that is how she has it. That's very nicely it has been put there. Okay, is it clear? Now why are we discussing this? So because she has analyzed the Isopanisad in terms of this. Belief plus action is lifestyle. Knowledge plus practices is equal to spiritual advancement. Now, she says that the Isopanisad can be dissected into, there are 3 levels. Isopanisad at the outside, you can divide into 3. She says that it deals with vision, it deals with guidelines and prayers. Vision, guidelines and prayers. Okay? So from the invocation up until verse number 8, it deals with vision, giving us a vision. Vision of what? Vision of the absolute truth. Right? Up until, from invocation till verse number 8. Verse number 9 to 14 give you guidelines. And verse number 15 to 18 are prayers. I repeat. Invocation to 8 is vision, 9 to 14 is guidelines, 15 to 18 is prayers. Now she says that invocation mantra, now we are getting into the vision, the first part, the vision. Invocation deals with the foundational knowledge of the Supreme Person. We all agree. Om Purnamadam Purnamadam. It's the foundation of knowledge of the Supreme Person. That He is perfect, He is complete. Though many parts come out from Him, He still remains the complete whole. All that we saw, right?
Deals with the knowledge of the company.
It's the foundational knowledge of the Supreme Person. Or it is the foundation of all knowledge of the Supreme Person. In one sense, you can say like that. That the Supreme Person is always Purnam and perfect. Okay? Prayers 1 to 3. Which is which verses? Ishavashyam idam sarvam. And then today's verse, which is that Purvan eva karmani vijay vishechatam samaha evam tvai namnya na karmani. Second one, the third one. What is the third one? Asurya namate loka andhena tamasa vrita tamste prethyabi gachanti eke chatma hanojana. These are the three verses. So he says that these three verses give practices for living entities. Right? And that's why we saw in the previous verse there was a lot of prescriptive practices. What were some of those? That human beings have 4 defects. Therefore, what's the first practice? That we should understand everything through Shabda Praman, coming from discipline section. All those things we saw last time. Okay? So it's all about. So today's verse also is going to continue on practices for living entities. Okay? Practice for living entities. Then 4 to 5 verse deal with knowledge of the Supreme Person. All this is under vision. 4 to 5 deal with knowledge of the Supreme Person. 6 to 8 deal with knowledge and practice of spiritual vision. Okay? Knowledge and practice of spiritual vision. Why are we talking about all these things? You remember when we started discussion, we said belief plus action leads to lifestyle, and then we are substituting that with knowledge plus practice is equal to spiritual enlightenment. So that is why the knowledge and practice is coming here. So verse 1 to 3 deal with practice for living entities. 4 to 5 deal with knowledge of the Supreme Person. Okay, and then 6 to 8 is knowledge and practice of spiritual vision. Like that.
Spiritual vision.
Vision.
What does that mean?
Because the whole thing is vision. We will come to that. When we do 6 to 8, we will relate to this. I am just preempting you on what her assessment of Isopanisad. When we read it, then we will have some framework to be able to relate to what we are doing. Right?
Can you repeat this?
Can I repeat what?
6 to 8. 6 to 8.
6 to 8 is knowledge and practice of spiritual vision. Just note down right now. Obviously, we are not going to discuss that right now. But when we reach 6 to 8, we will know that it is talking about that. That's all. So you will be able to appreciate. If you have to give one line to 6 and 8, you can say knowledge and practice of spiritual vision. So at least you will be able to know what's going on. Then guidelines 9 to 11 are guidelines for knowledge. 12 to 14 are guidelines for practice. Where is Rajiva Prabhu?
I'm not sure. I think that work to be said is what we should do.
Prabhu, he got a call when he was here.
He went to work, is it?
No, he said he will attend the call.
आपको बोला काम पे जाए पता करो
No, what काम only.
हाँ
He's attending the
हाँ
call.
ठीक है third is prayers
Baba, 14 क्या है? 14.
क्या है ना अरे बोल order okay 9 to 11 is guidelines for knowledge 12 to 14 is guidelines for practice
14.
so please understand initially we talked about vision now we are talking about guidelines okay if you don't know anything if you are not able to understand any of this nothing to worry okay. Prayers 15 to 16 are prayers for knowledge and 17 to 18 are prayers for practice. So it's all nothing but a permutation and combination of vision, guidelines, prayers, knowledge and practice. These 5 words put together. That's what the Isopanisad. They are all interwoven. Okay? Alright.
So what is the conclusion of this cycle?
Coming to that. So she says that what is the importance? We will not do spiritual practice till we have spiritual knowledge. Okay, everyone is clear on this?
Yes.
Now, what is the importance of spiritual practice? She says that spiritual practice gives rise to two things. First, it gives detachment from material life. That's one. Second, it gives attachment to spiritual life. Spiritual practices detach you from material life and attach you to that which you are practicing. Correct? So, in mantra 1, putting everything in context, mantra 1 is what? Invocation, which is the foundation, invocation is what? The foundation of knowledge of Supreme Person. So, mantra 1 deals with what? Practices for living entities. I already told you that, right? So, it talks about what essentially? If I have to ask you, mantra 1 in essence is what? What does it talk about? If you have to tell in 3 words, what will you do? Or in 1 word, if you can talk about.
Practices for the living entity.
Mantra 1, in 1 word. Forget about practices and all now. We have studied last week mantra 1.
We have to take whatever is
We have to take whatever is
Quota.
our quota. Why?
Our quota.
because everything, other things
Belongs to
Correct.
Krishna.
So if you have to put 1 word, it is ownership of the Lord.
Proprietorship. Proprietorship.
So, mantra 1, the key message is what? Ownership of the Lord. Okay. Most of mankind does not understand, does not have this knowledge. So therefore their belief is what? Everything is owned by the government, or everything is owned by the people, or capitalist nations will say everything is owned by whoever is powerful. Survival of the fittest. In US, everyone is like a shareholder. जिसको जितना मिला है eat लो, वही राजा है. Capitalist economy means that only. More you can amass, you are the king. Nothing stops you, right? Whereas here, what we are saying, everything is owned by the Lord. Communists think everything is owned by the government, right? Democracy means everything is owned by the, almost like that, of the people, for the people, by the people, everything is people, people, people only. But here, everything is of the Lord, for the Lord and by the Lord. Okay, so there's a big mindset here, okay, that mantra 1 is bringing. So ownership of the Lord, resulting in, if everything is owned by the Lord, तो मेरा क्या रहा? मेरे लिए कुछ है क्या? That is the next question. है आपका? एक छोटा सा quota है आपका. What is that quota? $10,000, $50,000. What is that quota? You tell me what is the quota. It's not what we own, that we are. That is our quota. Rupa Goswami, what did he do? How much did he own and what did he accept as his quota?
25%.
25%.
So essentially, we have to understand that we cannot produce anything. The Lord is ultimately producing anything, so we don't own anything. We recognize His authority and offer everything in His service and limit ourselves only to our material necessities. So whatever is our material necessities, not material comforts or material luxuries, whatever is our material necessities, that is what we will, is our quota. Jitna chahiye, whatever we require, just for maintaining our body and soul together, strictly speaking, that is only our quota. Anything more than that is simply extravagance. That's all. Everything that we add into our lives, which is other than the bare minimum necessities of life, is not our quota. We have to understand that. Okay, we think that my child should get that quota, or I should get this quota because I have been deprived of this, but it's not our quota. So it's very, very nicely, Mataji is summing up this. I was meditating on this verse in the morning. What is he trying to tell? Yesterday when I was preparing, when you all came to my house, I was preparing on this verse. So I was thinking, very profound. He says that anything more than the bare minimum necessities of life is extravagance. So we limit ourselves to the bare minimum necessities of life. And if we get anything more, actually you are right, then we dovetail it in Krishna's service. Whether we dovetail or we put it in the bank, I don't know. For a safe future. Okay. So therefore, continuous hammering of the message of the ownership of the Lord is meant to detach us from extravagance. You have to understand that I am holding something which belongs to the Lord. It's actually difficult to think like that. Theoretically, Bhakti Sastri, exam, writing, everything is over. But if you actually start thinking like that, it's quite bewildering. cooperate. Other than whatever that I need to keep my body and soul, everything else belongs to the Lord. It's very difficult to think like that because we get too attached. Because the kind of politics we go through in office to earn $1, we become like like a snake. We are guarding that area. कोई आएगा टच लूँगा. इतना गाली दर दर के ठोकरे खा के पैसा कमाया है मैंने. It's almost like that. We become so attached because we get a hard time at workplace. It's not easy. Going every day there, people are giving you something, somebody is thinking something. We are fighting against all this. So we become very attached to that. That's why we can't think of it as the property of the Lord. But by thinking like that, by offering it to the Lord, we become attached to spiritual activities. Okay? So this is in her assessment. Mantra 1 is telling that. Always understand the ownership of the Lord. Consider everything as the property of the Lord. Deha, Patya, Kalatra, everything is owned by the Lord. One way of once Emanuela was telling me this. She says that husband, we were discussing about husband and wife relationships. Okay. So she was telling me that she was hearing some class, she was sharing it with me. She is saying that the husband must always think that the wife is the property of the Lord. Okay. Hare Krishna Mataji, very nice to see you. Come for every class now. I'm so happy to see you.
Wife is the property of the Lord.
So wife is the property of the Lord. Yato manas tato bhav. So she said that the Sammam Bonam was the wife is the property of the Lord. Including the child. They have been sent by the Lord. So it's our duty to take care of them. And she was not telling me because she wanted me to take care of her. But which I anyway do.
Husband?
Pardon me?
How about husband?
How about husband? Yeah. So now it was not talked about husband there. But I'll still answer that question. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says the husband is the property of the Guru. So the husband's duty is towards the spiritual master, and the wife's duty is to assist the husband in carrying out the orders of the spiritual master. But the husband should see the wife as someone who is sent by the Lord to assist him in fulfilling that mission. This is called as Grihastha Ashram. Okay. Ashram means what? Shelter. So when we are in Grihastha Ashram, we have to take shelter of the principles of Grihastha Ashram. Otherwise it is not Grihastha Ashram. And then we are not under any ashram. Right? So this is the message that you are telling. Okay. Your question is what? What if the husband is
Not following
not following spiritual? Okay. So if the husband is not following, I know you are not talking about yourself. Okay. But if you take that question neutrally, the husband is not following spiritual master. Obviously, then there is something wrong. If we are not following spiritual master, then there is something wrong. And honestly, if I have to put my heart to my own chest, I am not following every instruction of the spiritual master. So I am also in that category. I am the first person in that category probably. Okay. Then we have to follow the spiritual master's instructions. If we cannot for some reason, then we have to seek help of senior Vaishnavas. Okay. So there must be some Vaishnava whose authority our husband will accept. Somebody, koi to hoga na. Otherwise it will become like the Manasya Raja, and I don't want to tell the second line. Mera hi man mera. Right? My man is my instructor. Because then our mind will become our spiritual master for eternal life. Then nobody can do anything to us. That is the most abominable situation, where our mind becomes our spiritual master. So we have to then accept the authority of someone who we trust, who is more spiritually realized than us. Okay? And then struggle to obey that instruction. Obeying instructions of senior devotees is not easy. It's a struggle. Meri jung. That is our fight. We have to go through that jung. Because At the end of the day, our purification will happen only when we are fighting against our anarthas. If we don't fight against our anarthas, purification will not happen. It's not a problem having anarthas. Because we have anarthas, we are in this material world. Okay, so how many times can we get beaten for our own anarthas? Already we are punished by extending into the material world. But if we are not fighting sincerely to overcome those anarthas, then we will not get mercy of the Lord. We will not get mercy of the Lord. Okay. For example, I can say that my chanting is not attentive. But if I am not doing something about it, then I am not going to get the mercy of the Lord. But if I am struggling and not able to do it, then the Lord will see my sincere struggle and give me mercy. And this principle is applicable to any situation in spiritual life. Sincerity is the key. Do I really want to solve the problem? Ulterior motive, do I have anything? Where I am thinking something and I am doing something. Okay. So if we have that, then nobody can help us. Nobody can help ulterior motive. I will come and tell you something, but then I have some other plan only. Then you can't help me. Because what you are going to tell me is trusting what I tell you as my problem. Right? So therefore, it's important then the husband goes to somebody whose authority he will accept, with whom he can feel free to pour out his difficulties on why he can't follow certain things, and be assured that this person will not judge me, but give me the right advice for my genuine upliftment. Karna padega. That is the only way. Okay. So by offering to the Lord, we become attached to spiritual activity. So the mantra 1 was about ownership of the Lord. So now we are going into mantra 2. Mantra 2 says that one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. So this verse is talking about doing work, right? This verse is talking about doing work continuously. But it says that if one goes on working like this continuously for many years, then that work will not bind. So the question is, what kind of work is that which we do, which will never bind us to the karmic cycle?
Kota.
And then it also says, there is anyway no alternative. Anything else if you decide to do, it is not an alternative. It will definitely be binding to the material world. Okay, so let's read the purport. Rajkumar Prabhu, you want to read?
No one wants to die. Everyone wants to live as long as he can drag on.
Little bit loudly, Prabhu.
This tendency is visible not only individually but also collectively in the community, society and nation. There is a hard struggle for life by all kinds of living entities. And the Vedas say this is quite natural. The living being is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in material existence, he has to change his body over and over. This process is called transmigration of the soul or karma bandhana, bondage by one's work. The living entity has to work for his livelihood because this is the law of material nature. And if he does not act according to his prescribed duties, he transgresses the law of nature and binds himself more and more to the cycle of birth and death in the many species of life. Other life forms are also subject to the cycle of birth and death, but when the living entity attains a human life, he gets a chance to get free from the chains of karma. Karma, akarma and vikarma are very clearly described in Bhagavad Gita. Actions that are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties are mentioned in the revealed scriptures are called karma. Actions that are free from the cycle of birth and death are called akarma, and actions that are performed through the misuse of one's freedom and that direct ones to the lower life forms are called vikarma. Of these three types of action, that which frees one from the bondage of karma is preferred by intelligent men. Ordinary men wish to perform good work in order to be recognized and achieve some higher status of life in this world or in heaven. But more advanced men want to be free altogether from the actions and reactions of work. Intelligent men will know that both good and bad work equally bind one to the material miseries.
See, good work also binds one to bad work, so everybody will know. But good work also binds us in a very bad way. Material miseries.
Consequently, they seek that work which will free free them from the reactions of both good and bad karma. Such liberating work is described here in the pages of Sri Isopanisad. The instructions of Sri Isopanisad are more elaborately explained in the Bhagavad Gita, sometimes called Gita-Upanishad, the cream of all the Upanishads. In the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead says that one cannot attain the state of Nishkarmaya or Akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. This literature can regulate the working energy of a human being in such a way that he can gradually realize the authority of the Supreme Being. When he realizes the authority of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva or Krishna, it is to be understood that he has attained the stage of positive knowledge. In this purified stage of modes of nature, namely goodness, passion and ignorance, cannot act, and he is able to work on the basis of Nishkarmaya. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death. Factually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. However, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive activities. A conditioned soul is accustomed to working for sense gratification for his own selfish interest, immediate or extended. An ordinary man works for his own sense enjoyment, and when this principle of sense enjoyment is extended to include his society, nation or humanity in general, it assumes various attractive names such as altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism and humanitarianism. These isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhana, karmic bondage, but the Vedic instruction of Sri Isopanisad is that if one actually wants to live for any of the above isms, he should make them God-centered. So there is no harm in becoming a family man or an altruist or socialist or communist, a nationalist or humanitarian, provided that one executes his activities in relation to the Ishavasaya, the God-centered conception. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna states that God-centered activities are so valuable that just a few of them can save a person from the greater danger.
Okay, what is the greatest danger? You are given suspense to all of us.
The greater dangers of life is the danger of gliding down again into the evolutionary cycle of birth and death among 8.4 million species. If somehow or the other a man misses the spiritual opportunity afforded by his human form of life and falls down again into the evolutionary cycle, he must be considered most unfortunate. Due to his defective senses, a foolish man cannot see that this is happening. Consequently, Sri Isopanisad advises us to exert our energy in the spirit of Isvasaya. Being so engaged, we may wish to live for many, many years. Otherwise, a long life in itself has no value. A tree lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, but there is no point in living a long time like trees, or breathing like bellows, or begetting children like hawks and dogs, or eating like camels. A humble God-centered life is more valuable than colossal hawks of a life dedicated to godless altruism or socialism. When altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Sri Isopanisad, they become forms of karma yoga. Such activities are recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, for they guarantee their executor protection from the danger of sliding down into the evolutionary process of birth and death. Even though such God-centered activities may be half finished, they are still good for the executor, because they will guarantee him a human form in his next birth. In this way, one can have another chance to improve his position on the path of liberation. How one can execute God-centered activities is elaborately explained in the Bhaktivedanta Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. We have rendered this book into English as a Nectar of Instruction. We recommended this valuable book. We recommended this valuable books to all who are interested in performing their activities in the spirit of Sri Isopanisad and learning Bhakti Sastri course.
Thank you for reading that book. So, what are the points essentially? Let's discuss. I've got two questions. What is the first question?
First question is given here that the living entities are bound with the material nature to work in a certain way.
Correct.
And then he is trying to find it because of the laws of material nature, and if it does not act according to his prescribed duty, he transgresses the law of nature.
Correct.
So the person is already bound with the material nature, the laws of the material nature. By acting according to that nature, it will further get entangled, isn't it? Rather than, so why is it mentioned here that he transgresses the law of nature and binds more?
Okay. Let me read that. Which line is that?
It's the
First paragraph.
second paragraph.
First paragraph.
Last part of first
First
paragraph.
paragraph, yeah. 24.
Okay, let's read that. The living entity has to work for his livelihood. Okay, there's no doubt about that. We all will 100% agree with that. Because that is the law of material nature, which is fine, right? And if he does not act according to his prescribed duties, he transgresses the law of nature, okay, and binds himself more and more to the cycle of birth and death in his life. So what is the question?
The question is not able to understand the second part.
Okay, let me put it this way. The living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is the law of material nature.
That's
Okay.
fine.
So, when you say work, what defines work? What defines one's sphere of work? What aspect defines?
According to the gunas.
Correct. The Varna and Ashram define the sphere of work as per the scriptures. So what should be our sphere of work as per Brahmanas? If we are Brahmanas, what is our sphere of work? To spread spiritual knowledge. To do adhyaya ourselves and to spread spiritual knowledge. To do yajnas, right? To be an advisor to the other three Varnas. Right? Now, if as a Brahmana, then I am doing something else, then what will happen?
Transgression.
You are transgressing. Right? As a Kshatriya, my duty is to attack
Kingdom.
is to protect, to fight adharma, right? So if Arjuna said, no, my hands are trembling, my lips are quivering, my grandfather is there, so I will retire to the forest. Then what did Lord Krishna say? It will bring you only infamy. Right? So if you are a Kshatriya, you have to do that. Right? If you are a Vaishya, then you are expected to earn money. If you are a Shudra, we are expected to serve all the three other ashramas. So if we don't obey whatever Varna we are, if we do work of some other Varna, then we will not be in our natural, we will be doing something which is against our nature, right? Because Brahmana, Satya, Vaishya, Shudra itself is determined by our
Guna and karma.
guna. It's not by birth. Right? By birth, if you ask me, I am born in a Brahmana family. Okay? But truly, I have understood what is a Brahmana only after a Brahman initiation, not Brahman certification. Right? Got initiated right, very few, 2 years back. It's only now that we are struggling to understand what is Brahmana. Brahmana means what? First is truthfulness, which is very difficult. Right? In a day, how many lies do we tell?
Countless.
Countless. It's very difficult actually. Very difficult. Even if we say, नहीं मंदिर में झूठ नहीं बोलता हूँ. Then in office, how many lies we tell? Right? So Brahmana means, in fact, once Gauranga Prabhu was lecturing and someone said, Prabhu, I am a Shudra. A Shudra, very good. He said, please accept my service. Almost like that. Shudra means, Gauranga Prabhu said, it's a very big thing. Okay. We think Shudra means Shudra. Well, someone is raping and killing. Shudra. Where it is said? Shudra means to rape and kill. Right? Shudra is a very high position. Shudra means very dedicatedly serving the other three and accepting whatever they are giving. And Shudra is not a person who receives cash, whereas all of us receive cash from our office. Right? So we are not even Shudras. Right? Shudra means you get only goods. You want a shirt? Okay, I'll give you a shirt. You want trouser? Okay. घर चाहिए.
Grains.
Of course, you may say that, प्रभु ऑफिस में घर दिया तो फिर ठीक है प्रभु चलेगा. You may say like that. Rented house English. So Shudra means, in terms of quality, Shudra quality is also truthfulness is a Shudra quality. Not only a Brahminical quality, even for Shudra's honesty is very important. Okay. So therefore, okay, anyway, I just sidetracked the discussion, but if you are going against your nature and doing something, then we will invariably not function in that place very nicely. And when you are not able to function, when you are going against your nature, invariably you may find that because you can't do it, then you will get angry, upset, and something invariably will go wrong over there with us, leading us to fall down somewhere.
Sorry to extend this. So how can you put this answer in today's context? Like we are
Like,
not Brahmanas, we are not Vaishyas here. Right? So
I will come to that. Like once, Govind Prabhu was mentioning in one class that when Brahmanas talk, he's talking about real Brahmanas, it is Krishna Katha. But when Kshatriyas give a Bhagavatam class, it is Ishta Goshti.
okay.
There is Krishna Katha and there is Ishta Goshti. Ishta Goshti also is good, but in Ishta Goshti what happens? The philosophy gets colored with one's, it is not given in the most purest form. It will be colored with the Kshatriya's own experiences and opinions and things like that. It gets very colored. So therefore, one has to come to the Brahminical platform to really give Krishna Katha. So, if we are a Brahmana, if I leave that and go and do something else, if my nature is to teach, then I am going and doing management, for example, then I am not going to be a very good fit in that role. Does it make sense? If I am a manager, then if I am asked to teach, then I will color all the teachings with management principles more than scriptural principles. You understand where the conflict can come now? So, the living entity has to work for livelihood, but that is the law, and if it does not act according to its prescribed duties, it transgresses the laws of nature. I'll give you another example. Now let's come to ashram. Okay. If we have taken grihastha ashram, then it is the duty of the husband to be the breadwinner in the house. Who is the main breadwinner? You cannot say, "Chalo, biwi ka bhejta hu. Main baithta hu." That is not acceptable. There are situations when this happens. Even in devotee community, this happens. Okay, that the person is, letting the wife only run the house. Okay, but such a grihastha household collapses. Why? The same thing what Prabhupada is writing. It does not, if it is not acting according to the prescribed duties, he is transgressing the laws of nature. Right? And then what happens? Grihastha ashram will collapse. Like that. It's happened umpteen number of times. It happens throughout ISKCON. Even in devotee community. It's no surprise. Right? So we have to be very careful. We should know what our duties are. So it's the main duty of going out is, and bringing wealth is the husband's. And the duty of the wife is to care for the family. It should not be the other way. I can understand there may be situations. For example, there may be job loss or something like that. Then somebody may be those are all fine. Okay. This country is there, etc. But we should not think like that. Then my duty is not to go to office. No husband should think like that. You understand? It's a thinking which is the problem. Thinking like that. I am a Brahmana. That is not acceptable. So there are many people who are bitten with this syndrome that I am a Brahmana, therefore I will not go to job.
Here, Melbourne.
It is there somewhere. Okay. Whether in Melbourne or Timbuktu, it is 100% there. Okay. Devotees can get bitten by this. So, we have to understand there are certain duties which we have. Taking care of the husband's duty to take care of the wife, to take care of children. We have to do our familial duties. We cannot ignore that and say bhakti kar raha hu. Right? If we have to go to office and if some responsibility is given, we try to do that responsibility to the best of our ability. We cannot say I am a devotee, chalta hai. Right? We don't talk like that. We go to office also and work very hard. Right? We don't try to avoid work. Kaam chor bolte na. Devotees are not kaam chor when it comes to that. We may not be able to do something. That's a different thing because Krishna has given different abilities too. But we are not kaam chor. We will do it to the best of our ability. Right? If we can't, then we will seek help. You please tell me. But we will be sincere in whatever we will do. Okay? So that is required. Because we have a responsibility to protect our family. If income doesn't come into the house, then what will happen to such a house? First thing that will go for a toss is what? When income doesn't come. Spiritual life. Because why? The mind is then anxious how to get the money. And then therefore, that's the problem. Okay? So, alright. So, yeah, so that is your first question. What is second question?
Second question, I need clarification because we were discussing yesterday in the second last para.
Sorry, I'll just extend that also. In spiritual life then, also we get duties. Okay? We have taken an oath in front of our spiritual master that I will assist you in fulfilling Prabhupada's mission. And if we are not assisting, then there is a problem. And oath kuch liya hai aur kar kuch nahi rahe uske बाद, right? So therefore, for us, our duty is what? To spread the message of Krishna consciousness. So we have to preach this message. Okay? That is also our duty. And then it is our duty to follow the 4 regulative principles. Because right now, as a devotee, we can say, I don't belong to any varna and ashram because I am a devotee. But then by doing that, we should not say that statement to escape the duties of varna and ashram. We should say that in order to accept the duties which are required, which come along with becoming a devotee. Because everything which is in the varna ashram is already packed inside devotee and more are there.
More.
Because devotee means varna ashram plus something more than that. Okay. So not that I don't need to follow varna ashram. That is only acceptable when we are highly spiritually realized. Like for example, if Tukaram is walking away somewhere, then it is fine. But we are definitely not on that path, right? Because even if we walk like Tukaram, after a few days we will say, "Arey, kuch khane ko milega kya?" बहुत दिन मधु करी खाया. There is no salt and pepper. ना इसलिए कुछ तो अभी बहुत इडली खाने का मन हो रहा है. Something like that. We are not Tukaram. So our position is like that. We are not very pure. We can talk big things, but we are nowhere here. So it's better that we, stick to the basics of Krishna consciousness. Our duty is that only. Actually, our duty is very simple. Follow 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, spread the message of Srila Prabhupada. And then when you go outside, do your jobs, carefully, nicely, understanding that that is not the goal of life. Come home and dive into Krishna consciousness. Unless you are doing something for your money. Okay. So do your duty there, come home and manage your spiritual responsibility. That is all our life is all about. And gradually what happens when you hit Vanaprastha, gradually reduce that component and then increase the spiritual component. So then we have to plan how to do that. We have to plan. Vanaprastha, especially in this country, is very, very difficult. Extremely difficult. Vanaprastha taking and all that. Because here everyone works till 75, 76 also people are going. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
What was your question?
Second question.
What was the transgressing of the
So transgressing means not doing your duty. And doing what mind tells. Okay, what other
I haven't
points?
answered the question. What,
What
in today's
is-
context, what are we?
We are neither, na? Even Mahaprabhu himself said. There is only one identity we have. We have to always memorize it. Kiba Shudra, Kibya Nyasi,
Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra,
Shudra Kene Nai.
Ye Krishna Tattva.
Say Guru Hai. So he is telling who is a Guru. Okay? But for all of us, we are actually nothing but our only identity should be what right now? Servant of our spiritual master. Servant of our spiritual master. That's all. That identity is good enough. Right? Okay, so coming back to this verse. So what is Prabhupada saying here? One can go on working like that for so many years and not get any karma. Madhu, thak gaye ho lagta hai aap. Take a chair. Neend aa raha. So one can go on working like that for so many years without getting karma. And what is that called as? What is that working so many years? Working for Krishna. As simple as that. You can go on working for Krishna. So everything that you do as an offering to the Lord. Okay, work under the banner of Krishna consciousness, and then no work can bind you. So we have done all these things in the past. So there is nothing new that we are hearing here. Okay, so there are 3 types of karma which are given here. One is called as vikarma. Vikarma means what? Acting completely opposite to the spiritual injunction. The spiritual injunction says X, I will do Y. Okay, so that is definitely, that will send us directly to the hellish planets. Second is called as karma, which is higher than that. Karma means what? Acting in accordance with the scriptural rules and regulations. Okay? Being truthful. Is it good or? Very good. Right? So anyone who is very truthful, what happens to such a person? He is rewarded by going into the heavenly planets. Okay? But when Vasudeva was told by Kamsa, hand over all your children, was what Vasudeva should have done? Truthfully said, Krishna said. Did he go like that and give him or what? No. He tricked Kamsa. He did not give Krishna and he didn't hand over those children, right? He took him to Gokul, yeah, all the way, right? So what is that then? Vikarma? Not acting. Truthfulness is not there here. Okay. Because higher than truthfulness is which one? Because truthfulness also can bind you. Truthfulness and righteousness and morality still are in the mode of goodness. The mode of transcendental goodness is what? Acting only for the pleasure of the Lord. That is why that again that example comes. The difference between Vasudeva and Dasharath. Dasharath, for the sake of truthfulness, मैंने बीवी को वचन दे दिया है. I have given a vow to Kaikeyi. Therefore, Ram will go on. So he inconvenienced the Lord for that. But Vasudeva said, to hell with all the truthfulness. First Lord comes. So first let him ensure that he is gone. So therefore Vasudeva is a greater devotee than Dasharath.
But Dashrath was not agreeing to that vow that Ram should go. He said no, isn't it?
बीवी को बोल सकता था ना, जब बैठ.
No, मना किया था ना. Ram was insisting to it.
मना कर भी सकता था, थोड़ा और जोरदार तो बोल सकता.
My understanding was Lord Ram went to Kaikeyi and insists that you shouldn't.
अभी हम लोग कैसा बोलते हैं? If we don't agree, sometime how forcefully we tell, नहीं होगा बस ऐसे ही होगा घर पे. कभी कभी ऐसा बोल सकता था. He didn't tell him. He gave more importance to the vow. वचनबद्ध हूँ, वही था उसका. Oh, I am given. What do I do, Lord Ram, etc., etc. And then he gave up his life because anyway he could not live without that. But still, it is considered. This is from a lecture by Gaurang Prabhu and Govind. That Gaurang Prabhu was explaining. That is why Vasudeva is a higher devotee. Arjuna also, his spiritual master was ahead of him, Bhishma was there, but he didn't go by morality, righteousness, this, that. He went by what was the Lord's order. Because whatever, when you act in Krishna consciousness, then that solution will always be perfect. When you act in the mode of goodness, could be imperfect, because it's not perfect solution. Modes of material nature will, it is saying that's why, modes of material nature will also condition you and give you misery only at the end of the day. Whereas Vasudeva was not miserable, right? But Dasharath became miserable after that, and he had to give up his life. Of course, we have to understand it's a pastime, but the pastime also is giving this message only. This message is important. So, what so devotees do not get bound to mode of ignorance, mode of passion, or mode of goodness. So we act in accordance with the instruction of the spiritual master. So if our spiritual master has given us some instructions, if we follow it, then we are acting in a karma. If we are not following it, then we are definitely bound to get caught up in the cycle of birth, disease, and death. But if we act according to the instructions of our spiritual master, always, then no kind of karma will touch us in this material world. We may be doing any kind of profession or anything like that. Those all we can do. But if our consciousness is always fixed, that whatever I am doing is to maintain a Krishna conscious family, any extra income that I get, which I do not need for my comforts, I will donate to Krishna conscious activities. If we keep on working in that way, right? Whatever income I may get, I will keep my lifestyle very simple. If we follow those things always, not for my personal aggrandizement, if we follow those basic principles, then no karma can touch us. Na karma lipyate nare. Right? That is what this verse last line says. Koi karma lagega nahi. What else is there in this verse? Anything else? In essence, that's what Lord is saying. Okay, and in fact, there is a cross reference of Bhagavad Gita also which is given here. Okay, sometimes called as Isopanisad, the cream of all Upanishads by the Bhagavad Gita. Personality of Godhead says that no one can attain the state of Naishkarmi or Akarma without executing the prescribed duties. Okay, so we have to go to the state of Akarma because we are conditioned by doing our duties only. Because Varnashrama Dharma is given to who? People who have not attained love of Godhead. In one shot, we cannot get love of God. So we have to go through the process of Varnashrama Dharma, parallelly doing Bhakti, and eventually then get promoted to only doing Bhakti. Is it clear or not? Right now we have to do some Varnashrama, because I'll tell you what, right now if I say I'll wind up and go to Mayapur, Prabhu Bhakti karne ka hai, thak gaya hu. Let us say I will go to Mayapur and sit. Close your eyes and think. What you are deciding? You will go to Mayapur. Okay. Let's say you are in Mayapur. Day 1. First class. Wow, kya Mangala Arati tha. Day 56. How it will be? Day 103rd. Exactly. Times of India. Prabhu, I am missing Melbourne. Right? यहाँ पे करंट ज़्यादा रहता है bro. Melbourne में at least 24 hours current was there. Right? So it's not easy. We think like that. Oh, Mayapur mein. Secondly, we need a sense of self-worth in our life. Today, are we deriving our sense of self-worth through devotional life? Many of us derive our sense of self-worth through our jobs. Because our jobs and our achievements give us an identity, right? Give us some kind of credibility, right? So without that, if it is taken off and we are a nobody, are we in that consciousness that we can be a nobody and do only bhakti? Even if we are in bhakti, it is difficult to be a nobody, right? Even if we are in bhakti, it's difficult sometimes to be a nobody. And then our spiritual master has to remind us that we are a nobody. Right? Any other thing else?
There was a reference to Bhagavad Gita which is saying that if somebody is not able to still fulfill that part and falls down,
Yes.
it was giving reference to the Bhagavad Gita, I
Yeah.
think 6th chapter.
Yes.
Now in that one, wanted to clarify one thing which we
That is where I think that the reference which is given here, no? That is where Lord Krishna is saying that sacrifice, charity and penance must be done. You remember that verse? Where Lord Krishna is saying, all of you are already Bhakti Shastri in Bhagavad Gita. Why are you looking as if you are reading first time? Sacrifice, charity and penance must be done. And then Krishna says, it purifies us. So there is from that section that we
I was thinking, is it talking about that section where Krishna says that if Arjuna asks what happens to the person who is not able to, who is not successful in this lifetime, if one starts Krishna consciousness, what will happen to such a soul?
Yeah, so he gets a life birth in if he has practiced for a very long time, then he gets birth in a very highly elevated Vaishnava family. If you have practiced for a short time, then you will get birth in an aristocratic family.
So the second place where Krishna says transcendental family of transcendental bliss, that's the place where after a long, because some confusion was there, it's written in the bracket there, or after long practice and failure. So somebody said,
if you have practiced for a long time and still if we have not become a pure devotee, then we will be given a birth in the family of pure devotees.
That's for someone who has tried sincerely and tried for long time.
Anything else? We have just 2 more minutes.
The thing is, losing your identity, losing your material identity so you can gain your spiritual identity. Is that the logic? Or because
it's not about losing identity, it's more of gaining the right material and gaining the right spiritual identity.
Getting the right, losing pride?
Just Krishna consciousness should be enough to keep us happy in life. The day we reach that, then we can say we are vanaprastha or retired. Till that time we cannot say we are retired. Just the activities of Krishna consciousness should be able to keep us happy 24 hours a day. If that is true, then yes, our consciousness is ready for retirement. If और भी कुछ है उसमें मसाला, Until that time all those desires go away, then we are not ready for it. Then we will go to the Holy Dham also and open Times of India, as someone said. Right? Why everyone is looking at me like that? Namodar, what are you thinking? Tell us your realization. Something deep thought you have.
Yes, Prabhu. About that thing, like when you go to Dham, to be like, but it is not possible. That's something that is really bothering me, because I was thinking that's what we are practicing all this to do. And when we are at the right place to do the devotional service 24 hours,
We are
we are at the right place to do that, because all these practices, what we are doing is to learn how to do the devotional service and practice. If we don't practice, there is no chance, no question of learning all these things thoroughly and becoming master of knowledge, all these things. But we cannot put into practice the space. But being here, it may not be possible to practice because we have a lot of things to do, like the job where you deal with Maya and come back at 2 things. Whereas there, you got an opportunity to be in spiritual.
correct. So even if we go to such places, we don't call that as retirement. We don't call it as retirement. That is the beginning of intense spiritual life, in one sense. We go there to intensify our spiritual sadhana, not as retirement. So Holy Dham should not be, we should not say that I am retiring away, and therefore Holy Dham jao. We can go to Holy Dham to intensify our sadhana and to learn to become a nobody and only become blissful with only Krishna consciousness, with nothing else other than that. Right? Here we have too many things at this point in time. We have too many things required for us to keep us happy.
But if we get such a chance where we can go and live in Dham and practice only the devotional service, that means that's what we are all desiring.
We are all desiring, but devotional life means not my desire. Devotional life means my spiritual master's desire. Okay, for example, if Radha Vallabh Prabhu has gone to Mayapur, he has gone on a mission. Very clearly, he has gone. He is doing such wonderful work there. He is doing that project for what is that? Ekachakra Gram Temple. So he is involved continuously. In not a moment. He's like probably he's the busiest. He is more busy than what probably I would think I am in even in working life and everything else. He is busier than that. So which is perfect. But not everyone who has gone to Mayapur has gone with under the instruction of their spiritual masters. So people who have not done that are not happy in the Holy Dham. Okay, who have not gone with for the right reasons to the Holy Dham. Because then Holy Dham is not going to, where will you run with your own mind? Right? So first, our biggest shatru is what? Inside our heart. इसको लेके कहाँ जाओगे वहाँ पे आएगा वो बोलते हैं ना what is that गाना जहाँ जाइएगा हमें पाइएगा. There is one Hindi song like that. वो जहाँ जाएगा वो इधर भी साथ में आएगा. काम it will tell. There also we will do the same nonsense. What is that? Right? So first इसको ठीक करना पड़ेगा. Then everything is over.
Keeps telling wherever you go before you go, your mind will go.
Exactly. Your mind will go. So our problem is that.
Changing the place is not going to matter. Whatever we aspire to do, we can still do here. And by going
but certain places are more conducive for our mind than certain other places. That is true. We cannot entirely omit that part. That when you go to a holy dham, then obviously you will not find women naked on the streets. You don't have at least those kind of nonsenses going on there. So to that extent, and then everybody is come there for devotional life service only. You will not find anything other than that. There is no other parallel economy going on there, or parallel activities. Every agenda is ultimately for devotional service only. So definitely there are benefits. That's why Prabhupada says live in the holy dham. So there are no other things other than that. But if our heart is pure, then there is no risk of contamination. So when Prabhupada said, no, I can be in a room full of naked women and I will not get agitated, but you will get agitated. Because for such a person, Prabhupada is only seeing the soul. So if we are always seeing Krishna everywhere, then there is no difference between Mayapur or Swanston Street or Las Vegas. Everywhere he will see only Krishna, right? That is a different vision. We don't have that vision right now. Therefore, we have to holy dham, this dham, that dham. Ultimately, the place where we live in has to be conducive for our spiritual life. Truly conducive for our spiritual life. Going to holy dham to escape the realities of life is not called as retirement. You understand? People who try that are not able to live in the holy dham. They have to invariably come back to material life. Am I making sense? They will not be able to live in the holy dham.
Even in the holy dham, serve our egos, like as a premature thing, it is still possible even in the holy dham to be somebody.
It is also possible in the holy dham to be somebody.
And still to be, it's like feeds both ways. I am somebody and I am in the holy dham, so it's kind of a
double
contradiction.
Yeah, it's possible, yeah. Just because you go to holy dham doesn't mean that you will be purified. What I am saying is the correct ideal entry criteria into holy dham. Okay. That's what we are talking about. If our mood is right, then we will be happy in the holy dham. If there also we want to become somebody, I'll work very hard to attract the attention of the top GBC. So that quickly, I will start getting recognized as a senior devotee here, and everybody will say, who is this Jagannath Ramdas aa gaya hai Melbourne. Kya bolte hain wo? Ek Hindi mein ek serial tha, what is that? Guni Ram bhai Guni Ram aap pahunche Bombay dham. There was one serial like that. I don't know whether you know her, nobody knows her. How come only I know all this?
दूरदर्शन पे आता
First time. So the song was like that, Guni Ram pahunche Bombay dham. So like that, we have gone with all our excess baggage, pahunche Mayapur dham. Oh, Guni Ram is a village guy, he comes to the city, he is not able to live there only, because he is a very simple fellow. So कुछ समझ नहीं आता किसको क्या बोलने हैं. He goes to anyone and tells anything, because he is a village bumpkin. What do you mean by that? Simpleton बोलते हैं ना, गांव का आदमी. He doesn't have the finesse of wading through urban lifestyle. So he is very कुछ भी बोलता है किधर पे जाके. So that song is there. Guni Ram bhai Guni Ram आप पहुँचे Bombay dham. So like that, when we will also go there, we will carry all our stuff over there to the holy dham. We will हम भी पहुँच जाएंगे उधर. और कुछ नहीं होगा. So yeah, it's important to build that consciousness. That's the message. Okay, I'll stop here because we're already over. Srila Prabhupada.